Hey, all you mentees, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an advanced look at some of these trade paperbacks and hardcovers coming out from Marvel Comics, so please stay tuned. Now, before we get started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these books. Now, most of these books do come out in the direct market on December 30th. However, the God Loves Man Kills Gallery edition has already been released. And I think Eternals is still coming out on the 30th. Now, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be looking at Spider-Man Noir first. So kicking off this week is Spider-Man Noir. We'll be looking at each of the spines, or all the spines together, a little bit later. Here's what the back looks like. And let's go back and open it up. So this is the last books released this year, 2020. Oh man, so long 2020. So Spider-Man Noir, Twilight in Babylon is what this one is called. Here is an advertisement for Spider-Man Noir, the complete collection. This is the stuff that's written by David Hine. He's the one that originally came up with the concept of a Peter Parker in an alternate reality living in 1939. Now he is a detective here, so it's got a lot of noirish feel to it. This one here, however, it's not written by David Hine. This one is written by Margaret Stoll, and it's drawn by Juan Ferreira. That's a very awesome style. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Clayton Crane, and who I love that guy's artwork, and I kind of miss him doing superhero stuff. But here we are with Spider-Man Noir. This kind of gives you an idea of what this book, or the internal artwork, looks like. So, alternate reality, this is the character that appeared in Spider-Verse, or actually a take on the character from the comics that appeared in Spider-Verse. He was voiced by Nicolas Cage. This Peter Parker, however, is a little more serious than his almost jokey Spider-Verse version from the movie. But, so this particular story takes him overseas, takes him around the world. There's going to be Nazis involved and fighting Nazis, and it also has a lot of Easter eggs in here for fans of Spider-Man villains. And not just Spider-Man villains, but Marvel villains as a whole. You'll see other characters appear, like Mary Jane Watson, and what this dimension's Mary Jane Watson has been up to. It's a little bit different than the MJ we're used to. Let's flip through here. I'm trying to find an issue that ends without a cliffhanger. Let me see if I can. Oh yes, this one here, the ending of issue 1, and here are all the variants. So the variants are kept on the opposite page of the regular cover. So this is issue 2, and then here are the variants for issue 1. Not all the issues have the same number of variants. Some of them have 1 or 2. So the story, like I was mentioning, has Peter Parker from 1939 from this dimension traveling all over the world. He's trying to solve this crime because there was a girl that was murdered at the Black Cat bar. So that's kind of where this all starts. And then, like I mentioned, there's Nazis involved, and they're trying to, of course, uncover this evil. So it has him going international in this particular volume. The book retails for $15.99, has 112 pages. Let me see if there's anything extras in the back. And nothing extra in the back. All the variant covers are collected, like I mentioned, on the opposite page of the regular covers. And this Spider-Man, or Noir, he's kind of a badass. Uses guns. A little bit different than our Peter Parker. And a little bit different version of the Nicolas Cage character that was portrayed in the movie. Now, all 5 issues of the 2020 series is collected in here. And as I mentioned, it's a follow-up to the series, this complete collection book right here. Next up is X Factor by Leah Williams. This is volume 1, taking place during the dawn of X, of course, because it's got this purple dress to the cover. But it is just called X Factor volume 1. This collects issues 1, 2, and 3, and issue 5 of X Factor. Now, why is issue 4 not in here? And that's because that's part of the X of Swords, or 10 of Swords, if you will. Now, all the artwork is supplied by David Baldion. He's the main artist on this book. So, actually, kind of like Spider-Man Noir, this begins with a mystery. Somebody has killed. This is a little bit of a spoiler. I mean, if you're reading Dawn of X, you know the mortality rate is high because of something that can happen. But just in case, if you don't want to know who gets killed, now's the time for spoiler. In the description of the video, I always put a timestamp when I start talking about the next book, by the way, so if you want to skip the spoiler part of this, just go ahead and skip it. So Aurora gets killed, and that is North Star's sister. She is found dead, and they're trying to solve this crime. So Lorna takes it upon herself, Polaris, that X-Factor needs to be reformed. So she takes it up on the council, and they decide, sure, but you're going to lead the team. And she said, no, I don't want to. I think North Star should lead the team. So along with iBoy, The Can, Prestige, who used to be Phoenix, Rachel Summers, and Prodigy, they all start investigating these crimes as to who is murdering these people. Because it's not just Aurora. Someone else later on gets killed. And one of my favorite things that they do in Dawn of X books, they've done this for all the trades, they tell you the characters that are appearing in this or that take precedence within these issues. So like I mentioned, you have this team up here of X-Factor, and then you have these 5 characters, and if you're familiar with Dawn of X, you know why they are important. Now, one of the most lamest X-villains shows up in this book, but it's done in a really unique way, I think. I think Liam Williams totally had a lot of fun with this. And of course, I'm talking about, again, spoilers, just a little bit, Mojo. And Mojo's just the character that always got on my damn nerves. I never liked any of the stories with Mojos. Even when Arthur Adams was drawing the Mojo verse and introducing us to the concept of Mojo and Longshot and all that, I don't know, I just never liked it. So there's a lot of special Easter eggs in here if you're familiar with the character of Mojo and Mojoverse and who else lives there. So expect some of those. The book has 128 pages and retails for $15.99. And let's look in the back here because this is usually where they keep the extras. Okay, so of course censoring that final page of issue 5, but here's the regular covers. They have full splash pages, and then some of the variants have splash pages themselves. So Larry Stroman, all new X-Factor, getting that omnibus. Hell yes. It's a pretty cool Paco Medina cover. I've never seen that one. And then for some reason they have this back here. And I don't know if that's on purpose, because I didn't get these in single issues. I only read them in trade. So I don't know if this was kept on purpose, but these are the characters. And Gwenpool makes a joke that this has something to do with tie-ins. So I don't know if this was meant to be at the end of another book, but they kept it towards the end. Actually, at the very end of this book. Okay, so with the exception of God Loves Man Kills Gallery Edition, because that book is huge and I'll hold it up by itself, here's what all the spines look like together. So this is a good time to remind you all to smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We put out videos every day, sometimes 2, sometimes when I'm feeling crazy, 3. I don't know how you all don't get tired of me. Next up is Shuri, Wakanda Forever. This is part of the Marvel graphic novel line geared towards kids. As a matter of fact, it's the graphic novel trade paperback. Retails for $12.99. I think it's a great way to collect these stories. I know they're geared towards kids, but if you have not read them, some of this, actually for $12.99, it's a pretty good deal. So here's the contents. This collects the 10-issue series. This is from the 2018 series. Here are all the creators right here. I'm not even going to offend anybody by trying to pronounce some of these names. But the one named Vida Ayala, I know, has written stuff for X-Men in the past. So a lot of these names look familiar. So that is a beautiful cover. So we kick it off with issue 1. And it kind of retells the story of who Shuri is. I'm pretty sure that series came out because a lot of people took interest in her because of the Black Panther movie, and then of course Infinity War, and well, maybe some of y'all haven't seen it. Maybe she's an Endgame, maybe she isn't. But this is the way that the artwork looks inside of this book. And actually, since there's several artists here, there we go, let's show some other art where she teams up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's a lot of cameos in here from popular Marvel characters. Like I said, it pretty much retells her origin. It does some updating. It doesn't do much retconning. But if you're familiar with the character of Shuri, or have been familiar with the character of Shuri, there is a little bit of retconning from her updated origin story. And there's some awesome artwork in here. So team up with Miles Morales and Kamala Khan. And then in the back, usually with these, they keep the extras back here, like variants. here is the Scotty Young variant. And then Jamal Campbell, who is a freaking awesome artist. Think he's working on the far sector, not far side. Carlos Pacheco over here. And then we have Travis Cheris. Always love to see his artwork. John Tyler Christopher always does the toy variants. And just the movie variant. And a couple of more back here with some character designs. And more character designs. Now, do you see Black Panther in these pages? Of course you do. As a matter of fact, she has to go and rescue him. So, that's what this book is about. 224 pages, $12.99. Next up is Eternals. This is the Neil Gaiman series. So, Marvel has been putting a lot of these books out. We have the Externals, the big monster-sized book. I'll be doing an overview of that sometime this week. We have the Eternals Omnibus, so I'll probably be comparing both of those. That was just reprinted with a more complete story. And then they reprinted this oversized hardcover. So this oversized hardcover came out years ago. It's a little different. The old Marvel logo. This is my original oversized hardcover. Both of them retail for $34.99. And both of them have the exact same content and page count. Both of them collect the 7-issue miniseries by Neil Gaiman and John Romita Jr., and both of them have 256 pages. And honestly, they have the exact same content. Both of them end with that John Romita Jr. artwork right there, the sketches. So let's take a look at this book. So first thing we're going to do is look at it under the dust jacket. It looks like we have an image here. Not sure if you can tell, but down here it shows you how huge this drawing is. Now let's get this opened and talk about the Eternals. Now the Eternals were gone for a long time from Marvel Comics. I think in the 90s they tried to revamp them. There's an introduction here from Mark Evanier, who's a showrunner. And then the cover on the left, and then kicking off the issues. So as I was saying, the Eternals were gone. Icarus and all his friends were gone for a long time from the Marvels. There was a 90s revamp, an early aughts revamp, or a one-shot. But not a lot since then. So Neil Gaiman, the guy had just finished writing 1602. They got him to just revamp and retell the story of the Eternals. And of course, they tie heavily with the Celestials. As a matter of fact, that's where they first appeared, is in that second issue of the Eternals. And then later on, after Jack Kirby was gone, when Peter Gillis took over the book, or when he had his 80s series, he tried to make sure that the Eternals' origins meshed in with just about all the origins from Marvel Comics, like all the characters. You will see the return of the Deviants in here. And you saw the Celestials, but I'll keep some of the secrets for you. I don't want to say, they're not really updated costumes. They just look, I guess they just look a little bit different with the colors, but they're really the exact same costumes that Jack Kirby was drawing back in the day. But this is what the artwork looks like. As far as the build of this particular book, this one is sewn binding, and honestly, I think my first printing, I'm not sure, but I could have sworn, I remember complaining about this one years ago, but I could have sworn it was glued binding, but no, it is sewn binding. But this one I remember having a hard time just staying open for me. I don't know why. That's the first printing. This one's laying down fine, this newer printing. Only difference between the two is the thinner paper stock, but not much of one. Not much of a difference. Let's look in the back here for some extras. So here we have all the variant covers, and all these were drawn by John Romita Jr. and showcasing each of the Eternals. Oh man, I forgot. That is a beautiful Oliver Coipel variant cover. There's the interview with Neil Gaiman. And then character designs and character sketches back here. So you will see the return of a lot of these characters that you may have been familiar with, like Ajax and Cersei and Mercari, Sprite. They just have a little updated twist to them. And then original pencils from John Romita Jr. And then the pitch. And then there's that sketch we looked at just a little bit ago. Now, last but absolutely not least is my favorite X-Men story of all time. This is X-Men God Loves, Man Kills, the Gallery Edition. So I told you all I would hold that spine up a little bit. There we go. So Claremont, Brent Henderson together again. This is the extended cut. So Marvel re-released these books in 2020. It was a series of 2 issues. So it's original graphic novel and extended cut, meaning that they added something, and I had no idea, honestly, going into it, but I've got the story memorized so well that I know what's supposed to be there and what isn't, as well as the dialogue, and we need to talk about that here in a second, but let's just look at the credits here. So yeah, they re-released this in 2020, and it was released as 2 issues, known as the extended cut. Here's an introduction by John Jennings. And there it is. This is the extended cut. This is what starts it off. It's our Kitty Pryde during this time in the 80s talking to this girl named Kate. Now, who is Kate? Well, I'll let you find out. She may or may not have ties to Eric. But we go from here, from this introduction here that introduces us to this story. So it's pretty much Kitty Pryde telling Kate about this particular story. And of course that is God Loves, Man Kills. Now, I know it's not a review of the book because I like to stay neutral when I do overviews of these books, but I guess if we're going to have Chris Claremont and Brent Anderson come back, I was expecting something of a, I guess a prologue to this, maybe telling us a little more about Stryker, not Kitty Pryde telling somebody the story of God Loves, Man Kills. So, let's keep moving on here. So, first of all, this being my favorite story, I don't know how many times I've read it. It's probably one of the comics that I've read the most in my life. And to me, it's the epitome of what an X-Men story should be. There was something here that happens, and for anybody that has read it, there's certain dialogue in here that to some people it's outdated, that people shouldn't know. And there's always been this fight between people, like, you shouldn't use that word, or you shouldn't use that type of dialogue, you shouldn't use that kind of hate speech in any format. But to me, I think it really helped the impact of the story to show how powerful words can be. Now, if you know the word that I'm talking about, that's done through here, it's been censored in this version. Now, before you go off, because let's just be serious, I was upset. I'm like, why would they censor that? I mean, obviously we know what she's saying. And this is Kitty Pryde's speech. And it's not censored in the Omnibus edition, and it hasn't been censored in the Marvel Premiere edition or even the new printing of the Omnibus Volume 3. It's not censored there. So what happens is, I found out at the very end, there is a note from Chris Claremont that it was his decision to change the dialogue because it was outdated and a lot of people were offended. So that's different than going back and changing the dialogue of somebody who's no longer with us, right? Like a writer or an artist. Because I'm not a fan of that when publishers do that. When a book is printed and they either change the artwork or alter it, or change the dialogue. So that's something to keep in mind, that if you've not read this before, the original printing was not censored, and the copy in the omnibus isn't censored at all either. But it was the decision from Claremont to censor this version of it, the extended cut version. And honestly, after reading why, I completely understand. I mean, he is my favorite writer, but here's the afterword where he explains. At the very end of this, he says, "I hope you feel the same," and I completely understand and respect his decision. So now there's an interview back here with his time with the X-Men and how it all ties together with his stories. They did use the original cover for the regular issue number 1, and then here are some of the variants. And more variants back here. And then we also had variants throughout different issues of the Dawn of X stuff. Like here's the Excalibur number 9 variant, Marauders number 9, and these were all done by Marcos Martin. But they're all collected in here. And to kind of give you an idea of how big this book is, if you're not familiar with the gallery edition format, it's this big. So it's bigger, it's wider, and taller than your omnibus editions. So we have original art here. the breakdown process from pencils to inks, and then some more original pages. Now, we're not going to flip through all of them, because for those of you that bought it, I want you all to be surprised. And that is still, to this day, a powerful image. The book retails for $34.99, has 112 pages. And it is, to this day, my favorite X-Men story. And that, as they say, is that. Now, when these books are released, don't forget to check out our sponsor. The edition's up to 50% off retail price. Cheap Graphic Novels prides itself on excellent packaging, so your stuff gets to you in excellent condition, and they have amazing customer service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And for all you Minties that are watching, if you're a first-time customer, don't forget to mention that Near Mint Condition sent you their way for a promotional credit on free shipping on your next order. Now, this is only for U.S. customers. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your source for the hottest books with deep discounts, customer service, and excellent shipping that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these books. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up, which ones you're passing up on, which ones you're hoping that they collect in an omnibus or an oversized hardcover format, depending on which format you like to read these books in. I would love to know all those comments down below. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe and ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We can be found on Redbubble and on Patreon. Those are amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. More importantly, please everybody, stay healthy, stay safe, and much love to all of you.